Imagine being so good at your job that you accidentally destroyed the very thing that you were trying to save. That's Diocletian, the man who stabilized the Roman Empire by splitting it in half, a move that most historians call brilliant. However, it was the catalyst for collapse. In today's video, we are going to be looking at how Diocletian accidentally killed the Roman Empire. By the time Diocletian came to power in 284 AD, the Roman Empire was in full-blown crisis mode. There was basically a civil war every week, and emperors were being killed like a sport. To make things worse, there was ridiculous inflation like never before seen, and a nice plague to top things off. So yeah, it was pretty bad times. Historians refer to this time as the crisis of the 3rd century, a period roughly stemming from 235 to 284 AD, where Rome had a grand total of 26 emperors. Most of these died violently. In fact, you could make a case that being the Roman emperor during this period was the most dangerous job of all time. Statistically, you had a better chance of surviving being a frontline infantryman in both world wars than what you had of surviving being Roman emperor during this period. The empire had grown so big that it was chaotic, and with all the infighting and civil wars, it was simply unmanageable. In every corner of the empire, a new general would rise up and try to take control for himself. Rome had stopped fighting the outside world and was eating itself like the Ouroboros. Up steps Diocletian, a general born of humble origins who rode in like a knight in shining armor to save Rome. Diocletian took power after the suspicious death of Emperor Numerian in 284 AD, executing the alleged killer Aper in front of the army. The troops declared Diocletian the emperor, but he still had to face Numerian's brother, Carinus. In 285 AD, Diocletian defeated Carinus in a decisive victory at the Battle of Margus River, where Carinus was betrayed and killed by his own men. This left Diocletian as the sole ruler of the Roman Empire. Now, probably due to the frequency of assassinations, Diocletian became a little bit of a control freak, which is understandable really, all things considered. Diocletian restructured the military, built up the borders and overhauled the economy, but most importantly, he split the empire. However, splitting the empire was not really his plan. It was a temporary solution to a permanent problem. In 285 AD, Diocletian made his friend Maximian the co-emperor. Then, in 293, he took it a step further and created the Tetrarchy, which is 4 emperors ruling 4 different regions. There were 2 senior emperors and 2 junior emperors. This would allow the empire a quicker response time to problems such as Germanic invasions, as they didn't really have advanced methods of communication back then. So a message from Rome's borders to the capital could take weeks. Then you have to wait for a response, which could take even longer. Now, Diocletian's plan was good, as you'd basically have quicker response times to invasions as well as internal revolts. The idea was effective in the short term, but it was never meant to be a permanent solution. But the problem was that Rome was no longer one empire. It was 2 empires, and they would begin to drift apart. Now, this wasn't too bad because all Diocletian had to do was pull the 2 separate empires back together again, and all the problems would be solved. But this is why Diocletian was actually a terrible emperor. Seriously, I don't understand how this guy is regarded with such high esteem by historians. What Diocletian did next shattered Rome in a way that it would never recover. He retired. Yes, in 305 AD, Diocletian decided that he was bored of becoming emperor, and he moved to modern-day Croatia to grow cabbages. Seriously, I'm not making this up. That's what he really did. He retired as emperor to grow cabbages. Cabbages! As you have probably guessed, the entire Tetrarchy immediately collapsed into civil war, and once again, Rome went back to instability and political infighting. This lasted decades, with emperors fighting each other and power shifting constantly. Furthermore, the East and the West began to drift apart politically, culturally, and economically. By the 5th century, the Western Empire was completely gone. The Eastern Empire would live on for another 1,000 years in what historians refer to as the Byzantine Empire, but it was never the same. When the West collapsed, the East was either too preoccupied with fighting the Sassanids, or they simply didn't care. Some efforts were made to restore the empire to its former glory, most notably under Emperor Justinian in 533 AD, but it would never be really unified again. So, was it Diocletian's fault? Yes, well, sort of. The empire was collapsing anyway, and without Diocletian, it would have probably collapsed much sooner than what it had. But his decision to retire and grow cabbages instead of unifying the empire again was the beginning of the end for the Roman Empire. Seriously, I still can't believe he did that. So, what do you think? Was Diocletian a genius reformer, or was he the kind of guy who says he's going to build a treehouse and just never finishes it? Let me know in the comments section, and if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.